I'm your host, Jeff Sart. We're going to take you behind the scenes with the craft distillers who are pouring their heart and soul into crafting the next version of America's spirit. This is the Great American Whiskey Cookers. A beer distiller making whiskey. Listen, distilling whiskey has its roots in distilling beer, something that Sideshow Spirits has a lot of experience in. So, it was a natural progression to get into whiskey distilling. Check out this episode to find out how a beer maker is now a whiskey maker. Welcome to this edition of the Great American Whiskey Cookers. I'm Jeff, your host. Hey, if you haven't already, like us on Facebook, Instagram, and do us a big favor, go to our Patreon site, like us and subscribe and become a member. We'd really appreciate it. Today, however, we are at Lincoln, Nebraska, and we're at Sideshow Spirits. And I'm talking with James, the head distiller. Are you the head distiller or master distiller?
Head distiller.
Head distiller. And we're talking production. We're talking all about production and the stills that they run. So, James, how long have you personally been distilling spirits?
Since about 2018.
Okay.
And then, we finally got this place in 2020. So.
And you come from, talking with Kip, the master whiskey taster here, you come from somewhat of a distilling, brewing background, right?
Yeah, I was a home brewer.
So tell me about that.
So I started home brewing probably in 2012 or so.
Okay.
I got a book from my cousin. He's like, check this out, start doing this. And I got into home brewing and stuff. And then I was friends with Cody, the owner. My wife and him grew up together, and he knew that I was kind of into home brewing and stuff. And I thought it was cool that he owned a little brewery here in Nebraska. So they got to talking, the owners got to talking, and they wanted to bring me on as a distiller. And I'm like, well, that sounds pretty cool. So I started doing as much research as I could, and I went and distilled up in Omaha. There's Brickway up in Omaha.
Yep.
So I distilled with Zach a little bit, and he showed me around some stuff. And then also up in Seattle, there's a place called Three Howl. And I worked with the gentleman up there. So.
Okay. What do you enjoy the most about distilling?
Tasting it. Yeah, and seeing what comes out. Because, you can plan and you can try to get the flavor profile that you want, but you never really know until it's coming out of the still.
James, tell me about the two stills that you have, what you're doing, the size of the stills, and everything about it.
Yeah, sure. So luckily, American Beer Equipment, they're based out of Lincoln, Nebraska. So that's who manufactured both of these stills.
Okay.
We have a 500-gallon stripping still. It's a 500-gallon pot still. And so that's when I take the fermented mash, and then I put it into the stripping still, get as much alcohol as I can out of it. And so for our 500-gallon batches, we get usually about 125 gallons of about 80 proof.
Okay.
And so I'll run that 2 times, and then I'll run it through our finishing still or a spirit still. This is a 250-gallon pot still with the option to run it through a column rectifier.
So you can take your pick. Whether you run it through the column or you switch over to run it through the rectifier.
So if I want to do something like vodka, or if I want a really clean rum or clean brandy, I can run it through that, and it just boosts that proof up and cleans up that spirit.
Okay.
So right now, right here, I've got single malt going.
Okay.
So malt whiskey. And then we actually did a one-off batch of, we're calling it smoked malt bourbon. So we actually used 200 pounds of cherrywood smoked malt. And so hopefully some of that smokiness comes through, and it's I think we used 70% corn.
Wow.
And the rest, 200 pounds of smoked malt, and then the rest of 2-row.
So as a small distiller, you're able to make those really fine adjustments and do something different.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
That's the cool thing about having a smaller place, is we want to do a one-off thing, we can.
Right.
So it was our 500 and 501 number of batches, our 500th batch. So we're like, let's do something cool with it at least. Let's try something.
Well, that'd be fun.
And it might turn into something in the future. You never know. You get to experiment.
So how many days are you distilling?
Pretty much every day.
Every day. So 7 days a week.
Yeah. Oh, no, well, 5 days a week.
Okay. So Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And you take weekends off.
Yep.
Right? And so this is a pot still behind me. Or
Yep.
to my right.
So that bad boy runs pretty much every day. And then every other day I'll run the spirit still.
Okay. All right. So you have a couple days where you're down, right?
Yeah.
Take,
Yeah.
right? And when you're distilling, are you distilling from like 7 a.m. in the morning until like 5, or is it a 15-hour run that you're doing?
So usually the strip runs take about 5 hours from heating to finish out. And then the spirit still will take a little longer because I run it a little slower. That takes usually like 6-7 hours.
Okay.
So right now, actually, I should probably do a little, I'm making cuts right now.
Oh, are you really?
So I'm pulling off the heads. And out of the 250 gallons, probably get anywhere from 5 to 10 gallons of head.
So how are you making your cuts? Tell me that. Are you doing it by sensory, or are you doing it?
Yeah, it's sensory and a little bit of looking at the proof that's coming out.
Okay.
So with the heads, it'll usually be really astringent. Sometimes a little bit of like green apple comes out, and acetone.
I can smell it.
Yeah. And I'll nose it, and that's where I get kind of that acetone. And then how I make my cut is once I can kind of feel the sweetness of the ethanol coming out, and maybe some of the grain flavors and toastiness from the malt.
Okay.
When I start tasting those, then I know it's probably time to switch it over to hearts.
Okay.
And also, I use my palate, and I can kind of determine like how much burn is coming off of the spirit. Then I know that's not quite ready to.
So you're not ready to get into hearts yet?
Not quite. This batch probably got about 7 gallons. I'm gonna wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I usually run it pretty slow until I get that hearts, and then I'll turn up the steam just a tad, and then collect those hearts.
So then when you run hearts, when you're cutting the hearts out, right?
Yeah.
How much on average are you getting of that hearts? I mean, gallon wise, how much do you think you get?
Okay.
Just ballpark.
So if we like to talk about things in proof gallons, which is, so out of the total proof gallons that we start with, I'll probably pull off 60 to 70% of all that alcohol.
Right.
Of course, it'll be way higher proof. I mean, the hearts cut usually averages out like 140 to 150 range.
And then you throw it into the barrel.
We collect them into these storage tanks over here.
Okay.
Or I'll transfer it over to that big 2,000-gallon tank over there.
That's a big tank.
Once we get our barrel order of whatever it might be, 30 to 60 barrels, and we can just fill them all at once.
Fantastic.
That way we don't let the barrel dry out.
What's been the biggest challenge in distilling?
Challenge.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of hitting you with the biggest challenge that you've had.
As a distiller, probably keeping things going, making sure everything is working. There's so many moving parts. Yeah, like today, air compressor belt fell off. Had to go and fix that real quick so I could keep the air going that runs the pumps, and so. And it runs like little valves and stuff on the brew house.
Right.
And yeah, so
it's all those little things that just kind of come
always fixing stuff.
Always.
Yep. Yeah.
And we hear that a lot from the distillers, is that it's just keeping things constantly moving.
Yeah.
Right.
And then let me think. I don't have a problem staying busy, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. James, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Hey, I'm Jeff from the Great American Whiskey Cookers. You can find these guys at sideshowspirits.com. You can also find them downtown Lincoln. And you can find the address. We'll put it in the notes below. You can find us at the greatamericanwhiskeycookers.com. You can also find us on the socials, in our Patreon page. We'd really appreciate it. Until next time, can't be good. You know it. Be good at it. See ya. One last question for you.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest, oh, he's got to run and go do something. That's distilling. That's just all there is to it. He's constantly moving.
So yeah, it just started producing. So I'll turn it on full steam until it starts producing.